The 1994 San Marino Grand Prix, Imola, Italy, a track forever linked with Formula One history. Everyone was excited for the race. Fans packed the track, their faces showing how thrilled they were. Among them was a racing legend, Ayrton Senna. He had a powerful presence, like a magnet. He was there to race, to win. Senna walked through the area where the teams work with a clear goal. His eyes, sharp and focused, noticed everything. He greeted his team, his voice calm and confident. The Williams car, a powerful and beautiful machine, was waiting for him. The car and driver were perfect together, both aiming for victory. The loud noise of engines filled the air as practice began. Senna pushed the car as hard as it could go, showing off his amazing skill. The Imola track, fast and difficult, was a challenge he enjoyed. He and the car moved together perfectly, like a beautiful fast dance. But even with all the excitement, something felt wrong. There had been accidents in the races before this one. The cars, faster and more powerful than ever, were hard to control. A feeling of worry started to grow, a hint of what was to come. Practice on Friday brought the first bad news. Rubens Barrichello, a young Brazilian driver and Senna's friend, crashed hard. The crash was terrible, the car completely destroyed. Senna, his face showing his worry, rushed to the crash site. He was relieved when Barrichello got out of the car, shaken up but alive. But the accident made the weekend feel darker. Saturday was even worse. During qualifying, Roland Ratzenberger, an Austrian driver who was becoming well known in the sport, lost control of his car. The crash was awful and the silence afterward was chilling. Senna, his face pale, watched the replays in disbelief. The news came. Ratzenberger was dead. The happy feelings of the weekend disappeared, replaced by a terrible fear. Senna, very upset by what happened, thought about not racing. He always pushed himself and his car to the limit, but the weekend's events had shaken him, making him think about how easily life can be lost. Even though he was worried, Senna decided to race. He felt he owed it to Ratzenberger, to the sport, and to himself. He would race with sadness, remembering his fellow driver. Race day arrived, and the sky felt heavy and ominous. The mood at the track was tense. The usual excitement was replaced by nervous waiting. Senna, looking tired and pale, prepared himself mentally. This race was different. It was a race with the shadow of death hanging over it. The loud sound of engines signaled the start of the race. The cars sped forward, a blur of color and speed. But almost immediately, disaster struck. Pedro Lamy and JJ Leto crashed, sending pieces of their cars into the crowd. The safety car came out, a clear reminder of the danger. After a tense wait, the race started again. Senna, starting in first place, took the lead. He drove with great focus, pushing his car as hard as he could. Lap after lap, he stayed in front, seeming impossible to beat. Then, on lap 7, the unthinkable happened. As Senna went into the fast Tamburello corner, his car suddenly left the track and crashed into the concrete wall with a terrible sound. The impact was sickening, and the silence that followed was deafening. Everyone watched in horror as the replay showed the crash in slow motion. The Williams car, a symbol of speed and power, was now a broken wreck. Medical teams rushed to the scene, their faces serious. Hope was fading fast. The race was stopped, and the only sound was the sirens. News of the crash spread quickly, shocking people around the world. Millions of people waited anxiously, hoping for a miracle, but the miracle never happened. Senna, the man who had survived so many dangerous crashes before, had died from his injuries. When the news finally came, people couldn't believe it, and then they felt a deep sadness. The world of racing and the world in general mourned the loss of a legend. Senna's funeral in Sao Paulo was a huge event, a whole nation grieving together. Millions of people lined the streets, crying for the hero they had lost. He was more than just a racer. He was a national hero, someone who inspired millions. The terrible events at Imola changed Formula One forever. New safety rules, which were needed for a long time, were finally put in place. The sport, forever changed by that weekend, promised to never forget what happened. Ayrton Senna's legacy is much bigger than racing. He was a tough competitor, a brilliant driver, and a fascinating person. His death, a terrible loss, made the sport safer for the drivers who came after him. We remember Senna not just for his racing records, but also because of how he inspired so many people. He was a true icon, a legend who will never be forgotten.